Hey everyone, how are you guys doing today? Hopefully everyone is doing well. So lighting's a little bit dimmer than it usually is, but I kind of like it like this because I have done it before to where I've tried to like take I know it's very amateur, but it's like I've done it before. I've taken the lampshades off and kind of had it to where it was brighter, but I don't know, I just feel like anyway. Am I blurry? Is the camera blurry? Thought I like sure, hang on. I feel like oh my gosh. I always do this now. Did that make a difference? Did that make a difference? Okay. Whether it made a difference or not, we're gonna leave it like it is. So, um, this video is gonna be a little bit different, and maybe I can do more like this, kind of sprinkled in throughout or whatnot. But I wanted to talk about a few things that are something that's going on, and a good thing, and maybe a few things to come. So I'm gonna try to just do that. I do have, when it comes to shopping and hauls, I do have a few things that I do want to show you guys. But this video, I kind of feel like I have so much to say aside from shopping wise in this video that if I said that this was a haul video and someone is here for just the haul, it's going to be like 80% me talking and just 20% is the haul. So not that I can't ever do it like that, but just for right now, I just thought maybe it makes sense to do this video separate. So I I may have said this in my last video. Hang on. Okay, thought I heard like I didn't think it was raining, but I don't know. I just like to make sure there's no like drips or leaks or anything. But anyway, so where do I start? First off, I will say this isn't, should I start with that? No, I won't start with that. So I mentioned this a while ago, and I've mentioned it throughout the years, and I brought it up a while ago, and then I didn't talk about it for a while because I didn't want to jinx anything. But I found a home, a house, a not a house, a condo. I found a condo to buy, to purchase, and just to kind of fill you in, if you've watched my videos before, then you might know I've lived, and this is not a bad thing. I'm not saying this like it's a bad thing, but I've lived in my apartment now for 14 years, and I don't necessarily buy into the fact that everyone needs to own a home, and it's just I mean, in a way it is the American dream, but I'm not presenting it like that. Like I don't think I didn't feel insecure because I rented an apartment. I don't think that anyone should. I think sometimes it might make more sense to do that. I think it depends. And you do have a lot of people, I don't want to harp on this too much, but you do have a lot of people who just think that you are like the devil if you rent, and they almost get like offended that you're renting and throwing your money away or whatever. And it's like I get that, but I understand the rationale, but I think there's other rationales to consider aside from that way of thinking, which I don't want to get too much into that. But anyway, either way, I have found a condo, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how I came to find it. And it's pretty much, I haven't closed on it yet, and I won't close until March, and I'm purposely doing it like that. If I really needed to, I could close earlier, but I'm purposely, and we asked, if that could be done, and it's fine because we are in the end of January right now, January 2026, in case someone's watching this far in the future or whatever. But anyway, so I will have my apartment through the end of April to just pay it out. And so the way it works, and don't quote me on this because this is just me and my loan. It may not be different with or may not be the same with all mortgages or anything, but for all intent and purposes, the way it works out is the month I close, I will not, and again, this is just me, and don't, quote me, but the month I close, I would not pay mortgage until not the next month, but the following month. So the way it's kind of mapped to work out is I close in March, and then I would not pay my first mortgage payment in April. I would pay it in May. So Me and my realtor, who is also my stepmother, worked it out that way. That way, I'm not going to be paying double, rent and mortgage in the same month. If I had to get the place, I would, but you know, it, if I don't have to, I may as well just, the later I can start, the better. So anyway, this way I'm still going to be in there relatively soon because March, I guess technically I could move in March after I close. So I don't exactly know when. I know I could close sooner if I wanted, but I'm just going to close then anyway. So I haven't closed, so it's not, I guess not final from that end, but I have gone through. I'll get back more into kind of how I found this place and I'll tell you a little bit about it. But I have gone through the inspection process, which for a condo, there's a lot less to inspect than a house because when I did make an offer on a house years ago, and I got inspections back on that, and inspections back on the house came back. You kind of figure something is always going to come back, but anyway, I don't want to rehash that too much. But long story short, I put an offer in on a house years ago, and I really liked the house. It was an old house, but it had been renovated. It felt like you were walking into a new home. It was an older house. It wasn't like falling down, or it didn't look like it was falling down. But you walked in, it felt nice. It felt like a new home. I mean, fresh new flooring. They added a new bathroom. They redid the existing bathroom. I don't know if it was two. Maybe I think it was only two bathrooms. Two bathrooms, four beds, anyway, something like that. But you felt like you were walking into a new show home. So anyway, it was nice, but inspections came back, and I felt like I would have been biting off a lot more than I realized, which is why you get inspections, and I felt like it would be a lot more than I could chew. So anyway, so I didn't get the house. I've kind of told that story a few times, but anyway, so I got inspections back on the condo, and with the condo, with me, it's kind of walls in. You know what I mean? It's walls in. It's not, you know, I don't own the outside. I own the inside. So anyway, even if there's something wrong with the outside, it's not that's not I'm not that's not on me, and I'm not even able to fix it. So anyway, but say all that to say, went through inspections, and I think now I am technically past the 10-day mark because, and again, don't quote me on any of this. This is not real estate advice or any kind of professional advice or anything. This is just my experience, but and from what I know from someone who has gone through the process of looking for homes and making offers, and then now finally going through and purchasing a home, there is like a 10-day window from the time your offer gets accepted. You have 10 days to get inspections done and decide if you for sure want to go forward with it or not. And then if you don't decide within that 10 days that you want to back out of it, then I think you're kind of locked in. So at this point, I'm kind of locked into it, which is fine. I want to go forward with it. I was looking for a condo more than a house because at this point in my life, not that this would never change down the line, but at least at this point in my life, one of the things that I like about being in an apartment is I don't have to mow the grass. I don't have to sweep, I don't have to, not sweep the sidewalks. I don't have to shovel the snow. I don't have to worry about all that renting an apartment. And with a condo, I own it, so I'm in charge of the inside. But when it comes to the outside, I will pay an HOA fee or whatnot, but I don't have to worry about any of that, which I feel like for me, for being a first-time home buyer, and because I have the kind of life right now where I do work a lot, I do work a lot of hours, and I work predominantly from home. I just genuinely do not have the time to deal with all that. And even if I did, I don't necessarily want to deal with all that, but it's not having to do that is going to be a big relief. Maybe someday I would like to eventually have a life where I would love to have more time. Believe me, I would love that so much, but that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I don't have time for that, and I don't have the energy for that, and it's a burden that I'm happy not to have. So anyway, so that's one of the reasons why I was leaning more towards a condo than a house. So anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about how I came to find this condo and kind of how I came to my decision and when I knew that it was right. Because I've looked for houses, for homes, I should say. I say houses, but I really mean houses, homes, condos. It's kind of like, you can have a tissue, a box of tissues, and even if it's not the Kleenex brand, you still want to call it Kleenex. At least for me, I just automatically call it Kleenex. Or like how some people say, even if it's Dr. Pepper and it's a soda, they'll call it a Coke, even if it's like Pepsi or something. It's just I kind of do the same thing with houses and condo. I might mean condo, but I say house. So if you ever hear me, anyway, some people, I feel like maybe I should clear that up because some people are gonna get mad, be like, "Why do you mean house? You just said you're getting a condo. You're lying." Anyway, people get, just to clarify. Anyway, but it doesn't really matter. It's not that deep either way. But um, I've been looking for a home to purchase for years, and I never quite felt like it was right. The closest that I had come to probably was when I made the offer on that house, the one that I just talked about. And then I realized, no, this is going to be a lot more than I bargained for, and um, it it didn't feel totally wise. I really wrestled with it, and I feel like there's going to be a degree of wrestling with a big decision like this or whatnot. But this time it's actually been a lot smoother. This time it's been a lot smoother. But anyway, so I was looking at condos. I kind of had looked every year, and again, my stepmom is a real estate agent, and she's my realtor. So it has been an advantage to have someone who I can be more honest with, and not feel like, she's like, what, if we have to look at 100 houses or whatever, and you don't want to buy in, none of them's the right one, then that's fine, we'll keep looking. That's, you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of a decision here, so anyway, and plus it's kind of fun to look anyway. It's kind of like, she's like, what, and this is something she would tell me year after year, even if you're not gonna buy, let's just look anyway. It's kind of fun. And so anyway, so a lot of times we've looked just for fun and just to help me kind of get a feel for what's out there. So I've gotten a taste for what is out there after seeing so many over the years. I'm sure there's people who have seen more than me, but anyway, I can be very indecisive too. I will say that I've gotten a lot better about that recently. Actually, I've kind of turned a new leaf about that. But anyway, in the past I could be a little indecisive. So anyway, but so I've looked at a lot, and last year I was looking at a condo. I don't even know if I talked about this a whole lot on this channel, but I was looking at one, and it was actually in the same complex as the one that I found now. And on paper, it was pretty much perfect. I mean, I can maybe find a few things or whatever, but you're going to find that with anything. On paper, it was pretty much right what I was asking for, but I don't know, I just wrestled with it. I just did not feel, I don't know, I just did not feel right. And so I didn't make an offer on it. I probably could have gotten it too, but because it had been on the market for a while. But I just did not feel right about it. And it was, looking back, I'll say this, looking back, it was a good thing that I didn't do it. It was a good thing that I didn't do it, and I'll tell you why. But looking back, I thought, you know what, knowing what I know now, if I was in the position I'm in now, back then, I think I would have gone ahead and got it. Hopefully that makes sense the way I said it. I said, you know what, this year, if I'm in that same position, I was hesitant last year, but I thought this year, I if I could turn back time, I would do it. But I'm glad I didn't do it then. I know it sounds like I'm saying two different things, but I am glad that I didn't do it then, because I did have a couple of big expenses that came up. And, I think, yeah, maybe it would have been possible to do it and to buy a condo at the same time. But I went to Ireland, which I had known that I was going to go. I went to Ireland, and that was a big trip. And I won't go on too much about this next thing because I don't want to get too off topic, but I didn't know this at the time, but about a year ago in April, I decided to get a second hair transplant. I said that kind of funny, hair transplant. No, but I decided to get I've had one years ago. It went really well, and I had great results from it. The only reason why I got a second one, and this is kind of common with the first one, and why a lot of guys, women too, because women do get hair transplants, but a lot of men or women, a lot of people go back and get a second one, is because a lot of times in the first one they do fill in where you need hair, but they don't always lower your hairline as much as maybe you would want them to. So I went back a second time, not because I had any further hair loss or anything like that, but I felt like I would feel a little bit better, or a lot a bit better, with a lower hairline. And anyway, I may have talked about this in some other videos, so I won't go on too much about it. But I had gone back and forth with if I was going to get that done or not, and it was kind of funny because last year, once I decided that I wanted to get it done, the process was just so smooth. It was almost like serendipitous in a way. Now I paid a pretty penny for it. I paid like top tier prices, like more like luxury prices for it, but I wanted to go where I went, and I'm glad I went where I went. And not that someone couldn't get a good result if you didn't, you know, pay a certain amount or whatever, but for me, I felt like it was right to go to this place for a few reasons, and I'm glad I did. So it actually, it everything with that just fell into place perfectly. But anyway, so I didn't know that at the time, and so it's, maybe if I had got the condo, I wouldn't have been in a position to had been getting that done as much as, I mean, maybe I could have, but anyway, I didn't know that though. I didn't know that at the time. So this year, it came time to look again. Again, my lease is up in April. So around this time of year is normally when, give or take, when I would start to look. And so my stepmom, again, who is my realtor, she actually moved out of town in the summer. And not to sound like I'm going in another rabbit trail, but I say stepmom, but it might get confusing because I might say her new husband, and you're like, wait, if she's your stepmom, isn't it your father? But you're saying her new, like, how does that work? So my mom and dad, my mother and father, were married all the way up until I was, how old was I? I think I was 20. Yeah, they were married all the way up until I was 20. And my mother passed away when I was 20. So they are married from, till death do us part. So they were married. After my mother passed, my father got married to my stepmother. So, which is who I'm referring to, and, who's helping me with my real estate. And so my father passed in 2021, but I still keep in touch with my stepmother. We still talk. We're still, we're still connected in a lot of ways. We're both co-guardians over one of my sisters who has special needs. And anyway, I'll spare you the details of the whole family dynamic, but that's why I say stepmother. But my father passed, but she got remarried. But anyway, so all that to say, she actually recently, I'm not like trying to tell her business or anything, but like trying to give a little context to the situation. She moved out of town. She got remarried. She moved out of town, and she's remarried, and kind of recently, within the probably not even a year, but but she comes in town a lot, so it wasn't like it was before. Whereas before, she lived in town. If we wanted to, it'd be easy to just drive and go look at places. But she's only in town so much now. I mean, she comes back to town on a regular basis. But anyway, so she said, this is the weekend of the 17th, and she's like, you know what, I'm coming back in town, let's find you a place. I'm like, okay. And I always go in it with the mindset of, if I look and I don't see anything, I'm not going to get something that doesn't feel right. And she knows that, and she's very like encouraging me, do what's right or whatever. If you don't like it, you don't like it. It's not like the feeling of someone who's pushing you or whatever to do it anyway. So she was going to be in town anyway for other reasons, so we decided to look. And I have a certain, I wish I could say the name of the city or whatnot, city, town, whatever I need to Google that. I need to Google what's the difference between like a city, town, municipality, like all that. A lot, maybe it's common knowledge, but I don't know. I want to say the city of, I think you would call it the city. It's not like in the downtown city or whatever, but I want to, there's a certain area where I want to live, a certain zip code. Okay. I would say the name of it, but just for, I don't know, would that be, I feel like that might be unwise to say the name of the city that you live, unless it's just very generic, but if you don't get too specific, anyway. So I would say the name, but just for online purposes, I won't. There's an area, a very specific area that I want to live, a specific zip code that I have always been drawn to. And I used to live in this zip code when I was growing up. Me and my family had always lived. It was like one zip code over, but that my zip code and this other zip code, they're similar. They are different, but like they're comparable. They're both good areas like that I would feel comfortable living in. Um, Kind of my stomping grounds from, my youth or whatnot. So when I moved away from home when I was 21, I was 21 when I moved out of my parents' home. I actually moved into an apartment within this zip code that I'm always drawn to. We'll call it the drawn to zip code. Is that gonna be like a tongue twister? The drawn to, the zip code that I've been drawn to. Okay. I moved into an apartment in the drawn to zip code and I loved it. I loved living in the area. It was expensive and the apartment I had it was a nice apartment. I've gone back and I've toured that apartment, like thinking about re-renting it a few times over the years, and I don't know, I was not as impressed. I think maybe it was a little bit newer when I moved in, which makes sense because that was like years ago. But anyway, but at the time I loved it. I loved where I lived. I loved where I lived. I was just in a different place financially, to put it, I was in a different place financially, and I could not afford it. And so that's the only reason why I ever moved out of that apartment and out of that zip code. And it was really, I did not want to move out of that zip code. It was like a very, trying to think of another word other than like, I don't know, another word other than sad. What is a better descriptive word? It was not a happy time. Yeah, that's a lot more sophisticated of a way to say it. Anyway, it was not a happy move for me to move out of that zip code. I did what I had to do, not what I wanted to do. So anyway, I had always wanted to move back into that zip code, and it almost became like something that was very like, oh, what do you want in life? Where would you like to live? I always, without thinking about it too hard, kind of gravitated towards that zip code. And over the years, I thought, okay, am I romanticizing this too much? Do I need to look at other areas? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm like, okay, am I fixated on, why am I so fixated on this? Do I need to, and I have looked at other areas. And I'm going to get to that here in a little bit. But anyway, so I'd always been drawn to the zip code. It is a little more expensive. With condos, though, the prices of houses in this zip code they have some really nice houses. They do have some houses that are just kind of more normal too. Like it's a pretty good mix. It's a very charming, without trying to sound like cheeseball, but I really mean this area where I'm living, it feels almost like you were in a Hallmark movie. Not that I'm like striving to be in a Hallmark movie, which actually that doesn't sound half bad. It's kind of nice and pleasant now that I think about it. They are a little cheesy sometimes, the Hallmark movies, but maybe that's part of what makes it so I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole nother dynamic. I'm not even trying to unpack that, but it's kind of like, it's not a small town. It has kind of a small town feel. It is like the perfect mix of where it kind of feels like I don't know how to explain it. It kind of does have like a luxury feel to it, but in a very understated way. Like it's not ostentatious. I mean, some of the houses are, they're nice. Some of them are, you can tell they're nice houses. But it's very like, I don't know, it's just very charming. It's a very charming, very quaint area. It has a really good feel to it, and I've been drawn to it for the longest time. Anyway, so I've always been drawn to the zip code, and I'm like, oh, I've always kind of aspired to move back there, to the point where if someone Sam, you have to choose which area do you want to live in. You have to choose right now, pick, you can be anywhere you want, but where is it? And I had to choose like on the spot. I would say that zip code. So I had looked in other areas. I looked more up north because some areas you can get. This area is a little bit more pricey. A lot of the condos, I would say, maybe some of them are a little more pricey, but then some of them, the prices for the condos maybe aren't as impacted as or as inflated as maybe some of the prices for the houses. So I think there is a little bit more leeway in the condos. But I had kind of been thinking, okay, maybe I'll look into other areas because maybe I could get, more home, like more bang for your buck. Or, I thought if I could get a nice place, but it's in a different area, but it's less and I'm paying less, then, maybe that's wise. But anyway, so I was looking more up north, and there were a few reasons why that made me consider to look up north, even aside from the price. But without boring you into all the details, I did look up north and I saw 5 properties on, not that you need to know the date, but on Saturday the 17th, I saw 5 properties, all more up north, and 3 out of the 5 I really liked. 2 out of the 5 I knew they weren't for me. I'm like, okay, walk in, walk out, like, okay, this ain't the one, this ain't the one. I went in open-minded, but anyway. One of the 3 that I liked it, but it was just too small. It was a 1-bedroom, and it was nice though. It was I liked the design of it. I liked how they did it. I thought, could I make it work? But there were other things about it too, and it was pretty far up north. It was also in kind of a little town or area where it felt like a Hallmark movie too, but anyway, there was another condo kind of in that same vicinity. It was at the top of my price range, and you'll have the amount that you're pre-approved for, but then a lot of people don't want to pay the max of what you're pre-approved for, which I didn't want to. I was pre-approved for like this amount, but I thought, okay, I can pre-approve for this, but I really want to stay within this range, you know what I mean? So this other condo I saw up north, it was at the top or a little bit over the range that I wanted to stay. It was I feel like House Hunters or whatever, it's like this one's over budget, but that one was over budget, not totally out of reach. But anyway, I walked in, I liked it. It was nice. I thought, if I had to, I could be happy here. It had a lot of great things about it. It was nice. Like if I did a condo tour or something, a lot of people would say, oh, that's nice, I like it, myself included. But anyway, it just didn't quite feel like the one. So plus with that one, even though condos, from what I've seen in my areas that I've been looking at, aren't flying off the shelves as fast as they were years ago. Maybe houses sometimes are, but even though condos are staying on the market for longer, from what I've seen, there was an offer made on that condo the day that I saw it, and then another offer came up. So there were 2 offers that had already come up by the time that I had looked at it. So basically, if I wanted it, I would have to make my mind up right then and there and put in an offer, against 2 offers too. And I thought, well, I do like it, it's nice, but since I'm not sure, I'll pass and make it an offer. But anyway, so saw another condo, not quite as far up north, but more up north than I live now. And I just say like up north and south and this just because I feel like I shouldn't give the exact city and location for privacy reasons or whatever. But I'm not trying to sound vague or whatever, or mysterious, but you get what I mean. So that's why I'm talking in kind of more general terms. There was another condo that was not quite as up north, but it was more up north, and the condo itself, I liked it. The inside of the condo, it was nice. It was, I'm like, you know what, I like it. The person had renovated it. Everything was like newer, and I don't know if I would say I don't think they flipped it to flip it, because there was a person who was living there. It wasn't a vacant property, but it was, a lot of things were newer and updated, and it kind of felt like, okay, this isn't being sold as is. I mean, I guess everything's being sold as is, but this isn't one of those ones where it's like, yeah, it has flaws, but take it or not. This was okay. The owner had taken care of it. The owner had made updates. It was nice. I liked the design of it. I felt comfortable in there. I liked the layout. It wasn't too crazy expensive. Actually, it wasn't crazy. It wasn't expensive at all. They did have a very high HOA fee, which made, I'm like, well, maybe that's why the price is lower because I don't know, maybe not. But anyway, that's besides the point. So I liked it, but the area, not even just the general area, but like the street and the complex of the condo, I don't know. I wasn't. If I had to, I'm like, if I had to do it, I could probably find a way to be happy, and I'm sure I would eventually grow to enjoy it, But it was one of those places where I thought, gosh, if I could take this condo and drop it into a different location, I would be better. But like, I didn't like the. This is gonna sound. I'm not trying to sound like a diva or anything like that, but I didn't like really the. And you know what? Where I live now, I'm not trying to paint a picture like I live in some high rise, $1 million penthouse now. I like where I live now and I appreciate where I live now. And I don't mean this at all in any ill way, but I moved into this apartment when I was on the brink of bankruptcy, literally. And I moved into it when I when I just needed the least expensive thing possible. And, this this apartment has served me in a lot of ways, and I respect it because it's been such a huge part of my life. And there is a part of me that will miss this apartment, as crazy as that may sound to some people, because I do respect a lot, but it's very rundown. It's very rundown, and I don't know. I'm probably not explaining it well, but I don't want to sound like I'm throwing anything under the bus. It's not. I don't live in the nicest place. It's not like necessary. It's not. I was gonna say I don't feel unsafe, but there actually are some shady characters. But I'm kind of used to it now. Um, but I do like the people I live around. There are some shady characters, but anyway, that's you could get that anywhere. Um, it's not like it's not the nicest. It's just not a place where you would walk in and you're proud to show off. I mean, I'm if you're proud to be out on your own and supporting yourself, that's good. But it's not like anyway, you get what I'm saying, hopefully. But what was I saying? So yeah, so even though I'm saying, oh, I wasn't impressed with this or wasn't impressed with that, I'm not trying to come at this from a snobby place like, oh, I would never do this, because where I live now is no better. If you saw these things that I'm saying I'm not impressed with versus where I live now, if you were judging the two, you'd probably say, Sam, where you live now is a lot worse. That's a lot better. You have nowhere, So anyway, so I'm coming at it from a humble place. Anyway, okay, I feel like I have beat that point to the ground. So the condo that I saw that I'm talking about, I like the inside, but I just didn't feel great about the area. And I don't mean like it's a bad area and I'm scared. I don't mean it like that. I just was not a fan about the area. Like I just didn't like the feeling of it. I know feeling can't go on feeling, but I wasn't that into the outside. The inside I was, but the outside I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna own a place. It's not like you're renting and think, okay, I'll be here for a year or two. Maybe that would have been where I could overlook something. I'm like, nah, I'm just not crazy about the area. And anyway, so I kind of had it on my plate as a contender, like maybe, but I wasn't 100% sold on it anyway. So that was Saturday the 17th, and then my stepmom was in town the next day, and we looked at those, went out to dinner, and then we actually, I went back home, and she went to where she was staying, her and her new husband, and they she called me, she's like, you know what, there are a few places for sale in my drawn to zip code, the zip code that I always go back to, because the area that I looked on Saturday, it was not in my preferred zip code. I was really trying to get out of the box, look for something new. I always look in this one zip code and I can't find anything that quite fits. A lot of things, a lot of things, maybe if they were in my price range, I didn't like them as much, or if I did like them, a lot of them were maybe a little kind of over budget. So it was anyway. Well, that's not true, because that one I saw last year was pretty perfect. So maybe I'm making it to be harder than it is. But anyway, so she's like, you know what? There's a few places in this zip code. And I had seen those places on Zillow, but for whatever reason, I just did not have it in my mind to go there. It's one of those things where the answer is in front of you and what you're looking for is in front of you. But I don't want to say that I had my blinders on, but it's like you're looking for something and you're looking hard, and you're looking everywhere and it's right there. But for whatever reason, your mind just dismisses it, you know? So anyway, so she's like, there's a few places. There was one place within that zip code that I was looking at, but it was a for sale by owner. So we weren't able to view it because you would have to contact the owner, and not that we could not do that, but it wasn't like, don't quote me on this because I don't I get how this works, but I'm not pretending to be an expert. But if it wasn't on the MLS, then I don't think every real estate agent just has access to it, access to it like you would otherwise. So anyway, so there was one place in the zip code that I was looking at, but I'm like, well, if we can get an appointment to see it, I would definitely be interested in seeing it. But if not, it is what it is. I was very just, you know, go with the flow about the whole thing. I'm not going to try to push something or anything like that. So, I'm not going to try to make it happen. I didn't want to get into that energy. So she's like, there's 3 places in this area. She says there's one, and it actually looks a lot like the condo that you liked, but it is in your preferred zip code. They have an open house on Sunday. Maybe you might want to go to that. So I thought, you know what? Okay, yeah, why don't I go to that? I should, why not? Why not? So she said, you know what? We'll meet you down there. When I say that she said we'll meet you down there. Not that this matters, but her and her new husband, he doesn't do real estate, but they're both in town, so he came with us. So it was actually good to have him there and hear, just different inputs or whatever. So it was a good experience. All 3 of us. He helped us look on Saturday and as well into Sunday. So anyway, so she's like, you know what? Why don't you go to the open house? We'll meet you down there, and we'll look at it with you. And then, you know what, there's another condo. Are you interested in this one? We have to make an appointment to get in because someone is, it's not vacant. Someone is living there, but, it's open to make an appointment. So, are you interested in seeing this one? And I thought, okay, well, yeah, let me see that one. Let me go to the one that has an open house. And then there was another open house too. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll see 3. They're all in my preferred zip code, okay? So the first one I went to, I just had a feeling about it. And I don't know what makes it different, because I'm sure I've said that before. I have said that before, but I don't know what makes this different, but something was just different about this one. I'd seen it like on the screen, like, I'd seen pictures on my phone, but something about this one, I thought, I just have a feeling. And maybe because I had already seen other condos within the same complex, it kind of helped me. Sometimes that does make it easier when you've seen other condos in that same complex, because you can it helps give you a better grip on what that condo will actually be like. You know what I mean? So maybe that's part of the reason why. But anyway, so I'd seen pictures of it, and then I have historically been late I'm one of those people who was historically always late, but I have gotten so much better about that lately. Like, I don't know, 2026 has, turned it, I don't want to jinx it, knock on wood, but 2026, I have turned a new leaf in a few ways, actually. But I thought, okay, plus we're on a time schedule. I'm going to get to the open house. I want to try to get there right when it opens. That way I have time to get there. We had another appointment at like 2:00 to see this other condo, and it was an appointment that you had a certain window and you had to see it within that window because someone was living there. So in order for you to see it, the person who's living there has to make a point to not be home. They got to clean it up and not be home. So it's you got to obviously honor their time. They're wanting to sell it and wanting people to see it. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, I definitely want to make sure I'm within the window to see that one. So anyway, so I got to the area early and I went into the local Starbucks. This I don't know. I don't want people to judge me for saying this because I could see how it sounds, but, and it's not like I've never been in the Starbucks before. I have, but it was just such a nice experience. And I actually went in, ordered coffee, ordered my food, and it reminded me it wasn't just the Starbucks, although the Starbucks alone, we could argue may suffice, but I love that area. I just like that area. I enjoyed that zip code. It made me realize, which I've realized this more than just this, week or two ago, but it made me realize why. It reminded me that I still like this area. It kind of brought the spark back. I'm like, okay. It brought the magic back to it. I loved it. The reason why I had originally fallen in love with this area, it was still there. It still existed. It's like I wasn't just romanticizing something needlessly. I'm like, okay, I do feel good here. I This is good. This is good, and it's always, I know I probably mentioned this earlier, but it had always been kind of a little aspirational to, like, one day I'll move back. One day when I'm, rich and famous or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm joke. You know what I mean. I'm like joking. People are gonna like take it so seriously. Like, oh, are you trying to say that you're like? No, it was like I thought one day when things are better, I'll move back. Like that's something I had always kind of told myself, and a goal, kind of a loose goal that I always had. Not that I felt like a failure if I didn't, but it was anyway. I'm like, one day I would like to move back there. So anyway, the magic was still there. And so I got there early, went to the Starbucks, had, kind of a nice time just soaking in the area, for the little bit of time that I was there, and saw, went up and went to the open house. I met my stepmom again, who's my realtor, and her husband. Met them there. We walked in the condo. It was not a busy open house. I think we were actually the only people there. Condos are not flying off the shelves like they were, like I had talked about earlier. But anyway, so we went in, looked around, and I liked it. It was like the kind of the perfect combination of, it was a 2-bedroom, so I'm getting an extra room because right now, oh, excuse me, right now I'm in a 1-bedroom. So I'm like, okay, it comes with an extra bedroom. It was the perfect combination of cozy, or perfect, what am I trying to say? Perfect. It was cozy. I mean, it wasn't like crammed cozy, but I'm like, I like it when things are a little bit cozy. You know what I mean? Not that I don't like, big or whatever, but I like feeling like I like the entryway, it just, something about the entryway I just liked. I don't always like it when doors just open straight to the room. I like when there's a little bit of a hallway or a little bit of some kind of like, I'm not explaining it well, and not that that's a deal breaker either way, but I like the doorway of it, like the way that you come in and you're not just bam right in the room. So there's a slight little detour, nothing crazy, but it was nice. Newer flooring, not brand new, but newer, pretty new. Laminate vinyl plank, which is what I like. I definitely am one of those people who prefer like LVP over carpet, or even like hardwood over carpet. I'm not a big fan of carpet. Sometimes I'm like, well, if it's brand new carpet and it's just mine, then maybe. But I don't know. I really, I'm like, I would just rather stay away from carpet. It just, anyway. So it just was nice. Like the details were nice, and nothing's perfect. Like there's always going to be issues. There's always going to be something, but like the things that were issues or whatever, I'm like, I can live with it. I think that's one of the indicators with anything in life, is when do you know it's right for you, because nothing's going to be perfect. So when do you keep holding out, and when you're like, you know what, yeah, this is good, let me say yes to this or whatever. There were issues, but I'm like, I can live with that. I was more impressed by it than I was put off. So anyway, like newer paint, like it looked like, I don't know if they just painted, I don't know if the paint was fresh or maybe that was just newer, but like paint was fresh. I like the coloring, I like the way, and I know paint and stuff, like you can change it, but I really wanted to be in a place where I could walk in and I didn't have to renovate or do anything like that. Like I'm not in a position where I have, as silly as this might sound, some people out there will appreciate, so I need to stop worrying about how some people are gonna like jump down my throat for it, but I just like I'm not in the position to cut the grass every week and do all the outside maintenance like every week or every, however often you do things, just with time, with timing alone, really, timing alone, that would be more than a sufficient excuse to not have to deal with that. But timing and energy too, just energy, where I need to or want to put my focus, But I don't have the time or energy to renovate and be doing all these things. So it's just, plus budget. This is my first home, and like I'm gonna be okay. Like I'm not, like it's gonna be okay, but it is kind of like, you are taking. I don't want to talk about it too much because I'm like, oh my gosh, but it's my first home, with I feel like once you do it with your first home and you kind of like get a sense of, okay, now I know the drill, then it gets a little bit easier. But like, this is my first time doing any of this. So I don't want to, kind of like I said with that house I made an offer on years ago, I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. So anyway, but everything was nice. Like, for me, it was turnkey. I could move my stuff in and not have to change anything, and I'd be perfectly happy, which is what I plan to do. So anyway, so I even said to my stepmom, I said, you know what, I think this might be the one. I think this might be the one. The bedroom, the master bedroom, it reminded me a lot of my bedroom from when I was a teenager. And I'll kind of maybe wrap this up here in a little bit, but well, you'll see the time stamp or whatever anyway. But when I was a kid, me and my parents, when I was a baby, we lived into they got married and they bought their first home, and they lived in that home. And then after I was born, I lived with them in that home until I was about 2, roughly, until I was about, give or take, 2 years old. And then I don't remember that home at all. That home, though, ironically, was in the zip code that I want to be in. I have no memory of being in that home at all. I see pictures, but I was too young. I don't have any memory. But like, maybe that is why I'm drawn to that zip code, because it was the very first zip code that I ever lived in, even though I have no conscious memory of it. Maybe in some way that does have something to do with it, because their first house was in that area. And so that was my first place that I lived, actually, in my life. So my gosh, maybe that's, that really could be why I'm so drawn to it. But anyway, so we moved there. Then we went into my childhood home, okay, which is just like the next zip code over. They're all kind of in the very similar stomping ground. But anyway, we lived there from when I was, 2 until I was end of middle school, beginning of high school. I forget which exact one, but 8th, somewhere in or between 8th grade and 9th grade, and so that was my childhood home. But then my teenage home, I lived in until I was like, preteen, teen, like, 8th grade, 9th grade, from that age until I moved away from home when I was 21. So that's my teenage home. That was the last home, like the last home before I moved away from home. And you know how they say that, like, if you're traveling, the last place that you slept just feels like your home, it's almost a similar concept to that. Like, if I would ever move back home, it would be, which my family doesn't, I mean, my father's passed, and my dad and my stepmom had, when my dad got me remarried, him and my stepmom lived there, but then, shortly after, they sold the house and they moved somewhere else. So anyway, so that home's not even the family anymore, so it wouldn't be, I can't just move back in there. But anyway, so that was my teenage home. But this bedroom in this condo that I am purchasing reminds me so much of my teenage bedroom. It's not exactly the same, but it's just, I walked in, I'm like, this reminds me of, because I said to my stepmom, like, this reminds me of my room on, and I, the name of the street or whatever. This reminds me of my old room. And so it's new, but it has a little bit of a familiar feeling. So anyway, long story short, although I probably can't say long story short because it's been kind of a long story, but we saw another condo. There was another open house, and this other open house, the other condo was good. It was kind of comparable to the one we saw. It was a little bit more expensive. It was a little bit more than I would have wanted to pay. The one that I am buying is like kind of tip top of my price of what I'm like, okay, I'll go up to here. The other one was not that, it was a little bit more, not that much more, still within reach. But anyway, so we saw another one, and I thought, well, if it's great, but I don't know, I kind of knew that the first one was the one, but we saw this other one, and it had a lot of good things about it. And on paper, I would say if someone saw the one I'm buying and this other one on paper, you might, some people might think that the second one was better. Like if we walked in and my stepmom's new husband, we walked in the open house and he's like, wow, he's like, he looked at me, said, this one, talking about the second, he was like, I would choose this one. It was good. It was nice. I just was not as happy there. I just was not as, it wasn't as cozy, like, which initially when I heard that it had more room, I thought, oh, well, that'll be even better. But it just, I don't know, like it had the laminate vinyl plank flooring, not throughout the whole home. The other one had it every floor, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, living area, 100% of the floor is laminate vinyl plank, newer. This one had it in, I would say, most of it, like the main living area and the hallway. The kitchen, I think, was tile, but then the two bedrooms in this other one, they were carpeted. And I'm like, okay, I don't like that, which I know that's probably an easy change or whatever, but still, even the layout of the main bedroom, something about the layout, can't exactly put my finger on it. Something about it just did not give me the same cozy feeling that I got with this other one. So, we looked and I'm like, I don't know, even the bathrooms, like even, it wasn't that it was bad. It's just, there was something about it that I'm like, the first one I was more excited about. I'm like, okay, I could see myself here. I could see myself, like, I already feel comfortable here. This other one was like, well, maybe if I did this, or maybe if I, like, maybe I could have made it work, but it's like I was having to fit the pieces to make it work, and not that that's always a bad thing, but anyway, the other, it just wasn't doing it for me, and so anyway, so I kind of thought, okay, well, I'll think about it, but I already had my mind made up anyway. Then we went to the condo that we had an appointment for, and it was, the good thing about that, which actually, even the exact location, it was okay. Yeah, I liked it. It was a little bit more, the thing that I probably would like best about it, it was a little bit more in the hub of this zip code. It was like more on the like main strip. It was like closer to it, at least a lot closer to it. It was like more in the hub of things. Not like crazy busy or anything, but it was like more in the hub of things, which I like the main hub. Like when I lived in this area years ago, my first apartment after I moved out of, my family's house, I was like, my apartment was on the main strip, and I loved that feeling. And not, I mean, I did, like, well, actually, I didn't even go out. I probably would have gone out and gone to restaurants and stuff like that a lot more, but at that time, it was a different financial situation back then, so I wasn't doing as much of that as I would have liked to. But anyway, even just like the little bit that I did, though, like I liked, I enjoyed that, but anyway, anyway, it was this third condo we saw. It was a little bit closer to being in the hub, so I thought, okay, well, I think I might like that. But I don't know, it wasn't bad, but I could pretty much, we opened the door and I could just tell it wasn't bad, but it wasn't for me. It's like some things I walk in, walk out. I mean, I walked in, I looked at it, okay, give it a chance. It was all carpeted. It was already like over my budget. It was like still within a range, like still within range enough to, I guess, be within reach, but it was like, okay, you're on your tiptoes now, like there's more than I was looking to do, like, okay. And it was all carpeted, and the layout just didn't have the same, I'm at 20% battery, so I'm gonna have to go here in a minute. I'm almost at an hour anyway, but it was all carpeted, which I don't like carpet, and then like how much, it's another expense to get that taken out, if I even want to deal with that, on top of something that's like already above my price room. But anyway, aside, even if it was hardwood floor, or not hardwood or laminate vinyl plank, I don't know, would I have felt a lot better there? Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, it wasn't the one. I don't even know, like, whenever I look at something, I do try to like give everything a fair chance and try to look at like every corner, every part, like, okay, make sure I see everything, just take it all in just in case. But I walked, but I was like more just going through the motions because in my mind I'm like, no, it's anyway. It wasn't bad. I'm not saying it wasn't bad or anything like that. I mean, I hope the owner sells it. I'm sure the right person will get it, but it wasn't the one for me. So anyway, the first condo that we saw, which was the one that I really liked, the open house was still going on, and so it was almost over. But we went back, and my stepmom and her husband are like, you know what, if you're gonna make this big of a decision, you need to see the place more than once. My stepmom's always very good about that. Again, stepmom, who is my realtor, she's always good about that. She's like, if you're going to put an offer on something, you need to see it more than once, which I appreciate that because, that's true. I mean, you try on clothes. Sometimes people go to the store and spend more time trying on clothes. I mean, I love trying on clothes, than they will like looking at a home. Like that to me is something that surprised me about the whole home buying process is the fact that, especially when things are flying off the shelf, like people go in and just you see it once and then you're just like, you got to just do that. But that's just kind of the nature of it. Anyway, but so I did get to see it twice, which was good. And anyway, long story short, I made an offer on it. So I should probably wrap this video up soon. But one of the reasons why I wanted to purchase a home, this is not the only reason, and this, even if this was not a reason, I would still think it would be good for me to purchase this home. I mean, well, I'm getting back in the area that I want to be in. I'm getting a nice condo that to me feels good. It's kind of big enough, but it's also kind of small enough because sometimes if something is, I mean, not that one day, I'm not saying that I'll never have maybe even a house that's bigger or, even another condo that's bigger. I'm not saying that I would never have any of that or whatever, but for right now, I appreciate the size of it because it's like maybe it's kind of like Goldilocks. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's not too big. I am thinking like, okay, it is 2 bedrooms, so I don't know. I almost feel like I have a little more space now in my 1 bedroom just because of the way things are laid out. I'm like, I need to get rid of some stuff. I think I will have storage in this place though, which is nice. I'll have storage, and then if I need to purchase more storage, I think I can. So that is kind of nice. I'm like, okay, that gives me a little buffer room. But anyway, I'm listening to the book, the which I've listened to this before, but The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I'm like, okay, we gotta, see what sparks joy and what I can discard. But anyway, I'm not planning on getting rid of just everything, but I'm like, okay, I want to move in, I want to do it right anyway. So it's in the zip code that I want to be in. It's a condo that feels nice. It's compared to what I have now. To a lot of people, it might just would feel like a normal condo or a normal house, like just normal finishes. And well, yeah, what do you expect? But compared to what I have now, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way or whatever, but as run down of condition as my apartment is now, and as the whole apartment, it's old. Old isn't always bad. Old can have charm, but sometimes old can also be not good. It's old. It's very run down. It's been very run down. It's not. It's kind of cheap. Anyway. Having a place like this with nicer finishes just is gonna feel. For some people, it might be a lateral move. To me, it's a huge step up, and I came from, this is like the first rundown place that I've lived in. Well, the apartment that I lived in right before I lived here, I moved into, well, I'm going to bore you with all my laundry list of places I've lived, so I don't want to do that because I need to wrap this video up anyway. But most of my life, I have not lived in rundown places. Moving, the past 14 years, which I guess now actually is a good chunk of my life. Anyway, it's an upgrade. And what more can I ask for? It's an upgrade. It's in the area that I want to be in. And anyway, so also, what I was going to say, I might run over my hour cutoff time, but I thought if I would like to film more YouTube videos, I haven't been filming as many lately for a few reasons. One reason, like I mentioned earlier, is time. Just genuinely time and energy, and I know sometimes I will film videos. Well, that's the thing. Sometimes I will take the time to do it, and then I will watch it back, and I don't. I'm like, I don't like that one. I was, I don't know. I don't like how I looked or sounded or whatever, which is all legitimate. But then you end up spending so much time, filming a video and then not using it, so you just wasted like an hour plus or whatever. Not that these videos are huge productions, but like, I mean, this one's an hour long, and I'm just sitting talking. You know what I mean? I haven't even like, well, I'm not gonna really edit this or anything, but I haven't like edited it or rewatched it yet or anything like that. And anyway, but I would like to do videos. I would like to get back into social media, like sharing a little bit more of my life and my taste, really. Like, it sounds weird to say sharing your life. I mean, it kind of is, but like, I want to share like my taste, like things that I'm into, which is kind of what I do with shopping and the hauls. Like, that's part of it. And I like that. I want to keep that, and I want to lean into that a little bit more. And like, I feel like one of the main reasons that made me think, okay, I should move, is I don't really feel like I can comfortably do that in this apartment. I just don't feel like it really supports me doing that. Like, I just think it's time to move on. I just think it's time to move on. I have a love and appreciation for this place. Um, but I think it's time. I think it's time. So, well, whether I like it or not, it is it is time. But so yeah, I would like to be able to do more YouTube videos and stuff for you guys. And I think being in a new space, a space that is my own, I'm already thinking of ways that I can decorate this place. I'm already thinking of like, oh, I'm gonna hang this here, I'm gonna do this. And not that I'm like 100% tied to it, or like I can't tweak things or whatever, but like, I'm already planning out, oh, I can do this and I can do that. And to be back in this area, just to be back in the zip code alone, whatever place I'm in, is huge. And then, to find a nice condo that meets my needs, what more can I ask for? But anyway, all right, well, I want to do more videos for you guys, so hopefully I will also start that even before I move, because I am going to be here a little while longer. Like I said, I don't close till March, and then I have all of April. Not that I'm going to wait till the end of April to move in, but anyway, so, but that time's going to come before I know it. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you for watching, and I will look forward to seeing you in my next video. Adios.